also excited by the support in the budget for the housing program of the Tobago House of Assembly. Mr. Deputy Speaker, over the last 5 years, the Assembly's efforts to supply public housing in Tobago have been significantly compromised by the lack of budgetary support from central government. As I speak, there are over 7,500 listed applicants.
Members, please, the little crosstalk, let's minimize it, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. As I speak, there are over 7,500 listed applicants in Tobago seeking housing. In this budget, the allocation for housing in the development program estimates of the Assembly increased by about 85%, from about 28 million in fiscal 2015 to about 52 million in fiscal 2016. The increased provisions in the budget for housing will certainly go a long way to accelerate the Assembly's housing program and address the significant gap between the demand and supply for public housing in Tobago. Mr. Deputy Speaker, I am particularly passionate about the issue of housing, as this is one of the main areas of concern for my constituents. As I speak, I remember the countless number of young professionals and single parents I would have interacted with in the various communities in Tobago East, all demonstrating a burning desire to acquire their own home. Also related to the issue of housing in Tobago is the matter of land titles. Mr. Deputy Speaker, an issue that is very dear to the hearts of all Tobagonians is the regularization of land titles. In keeping with government's policy of facilitating the implementation of sustainable land reform measures in Tobago, we intend to ensure there is once again adequate collaboration with the Assembly to formalize the land rights in Tobago as a prerequisite for improved security of land tenure and sustainable economic development. This government has given its commitment to the residents of Tobago to assist in the regularization of land titles on the island. Data collected indicated that in Tobago, over 80% of persons are unable to access the equity in the property they own to gain access to funds from lending institutions, as they do not have any proof of ownership for the land on which they live. In short, they have undisputed possession but no deed. This matter also affects the state's ability to lease property for government business in Tobago, since proper title is a prerequisite to such an engagement. In addition, utility assistance, home repair and home improvement grants provided by the state require proof of ownership of the land, or at a minimum, a non-objection to use affidavit by the applicant from the title holder or holders. Where there is absolutely no title document, access to these services is completely frustrated. Further, it should be noted that the lack of documentary evidence for the ownership of lands in Tobago often results in many land disputes. These disputes have created acrimony and conflict among family members and neighbors. Litigation has often resulted in the destruction of family units, and it is a sustained source of community-based conflict. Mr. Deputy Speaker, this is particularly important. Family is important to Tobagonians, so this matter must be resolved. It is also noted that the process to bring the lands under the Real Property Act, Chapter 56(2), is quite costly for most Tobagonians and significantly higher than in Trinidad. In this regard, It is proposed that the regularization of land titles in Tobago should follow the land adjudication and registration program. This government will give priority to this issue and, unlike the former administration, seek to bring the necessary legislative framework to the House in a reasonable time frame. Mr. Deputy Speaker, I am pleased with the support given in the budget to improve the security architecture in Tobago. In many budget presentations over the past 5 years, there have been many broken promises to the people of Tobago regarding the construction of the new police stations at Old Grange and Roxborough. When the last PNM government demitted office in 2010, the contracts for these 2 police stations were already awarded and construction was ready to begin. For 5 long years under the last administration, absolutely nothing happened with these critical projects. Was promise after promise in every budget presentation, Mr. Deputy Speaker. So I am particularly delighted to hear the Honorable Finance Minister has given his commitment not only to start the construction of the long-awaited Old Grange and Roxborough Police Station, but also the new fire service headquarters in Roxborough, my hometown, a village I dearly love. Mr. Deputy Speaker, as the representative for Tobago East, when I examine the range of projects funded in the budget under the development program estimates of the Tobago House of Assembly, I am extremely happy that some of the most urgent developmental needs in Tobago East were taken into consideration. In this context, I see projects for the development of housing in areas such as Belgarden, Castara, Hope, and Roxborough. I also see support for many projects to improve tourism sites and attractions in Tobago East, such as upgrades to beach facilities in Charlottesville and Bloody Bay, and the construction of new beach facilities in Englishman's Bay. There are also projects to support the agricultural and the fishing sector. In this context, an allocation of $5 million is made for the development of agricultural access roads, particularly in Tobago East. Mr. Deputy Speaker, the proposal announced by the Minister of Finance to exempt duties and taxes from inputs into the agricultural sector, like approved chemicals, approved vehicles, and approved fishing vessels and equipment, will also significantly benefit residents of Tobago East, many of whom make their livelihood from the agricultural and fishing sector. The allocations to the Assembly also provides for the decentralization of government services in East Tobago. In this regard, an allocation of $2 million is made to start work on the Roxborough Plaza. Provision is also made for the establishment of a social services complex in Mason Hall. The allocations to the Assembly also provides for the enhancement of the road infrastructure in Tobago East. Provision is made for work on the Lansome-Charlottesville Road, the Mount St. George Castara Road, the Northside Road, and the Windward Road. In general, the allocations to the development program of the Assembly treats in a very comprehensive way with some of the most urgent developmental needs of Tobago East. And for this, I am extremely thankful. Mr. Deputy Speaker, permit me to treat with an issue which is a source of personal disappointment for me. That is the execution of the Green Fund in Tobago. When I heard the Minister of Finance indicate in his budget presentation what has happened with the Green Fund, I felt a personal sense of disappointment because of the way Tobago was treated over the last 5 years as it relates to this fund. In my former job as coordinator in the Division of Community Development and Culture, I was placed on a committee to provide a community development perspective on proposals submitted to the committee and provide investigative insight on the various organizations that attempted to access the Green Fund. Over the last 5 years, not a single one of the proposals recommended by the Tobago Committee received funding.
No.
Not one. I'm not lying, I was on the committee. And there were many, many excellent proposals with great potential to positively impact the lives of Tobagonians. Even proposals from the Tobago House of Assembly's Department of Natural Resources and the Environment did not receive the nod from the final evaluating committee in Trinidad. None. Not a nod, not a yes. We got nothing. I sometimes wonder if allowing the Tobago Executing Committee to function was a matter of tokenism on the part of the past PP government. As a matter of fact, I spent at least 2 long days serving on an interview panel to operationalize the Green Fund unit in Tobago. And despite recommending a number of highly qualified persons, the unit was never operationalized.
No.
Every month they pay rent for a building that was fully furnished and never staffed. That made me vex, Mr. Deputy Speaker. Mr. Deputy Speaker, I now wish to turn my attention to the issue of the former administration's operations in Tobago. Mr. Deputy Speaker, the Central Administrative Services in May 2010 was renamed the Ministry of Tobago Development under the 6th and 7th schedule, responsible for the following services: the Weights and Measures Inspectorate to enforce Weights and Measurement Act, the Meteorological Services, which provide 24-hour monitoring of weather conditions for aviation and climate purposes, and the collection, analysis, and dissemination of climate information. The Registrar General Department to manage civil registry services, company registry services, and land registry services. The Sub-Treasury Department to manage the encashment of government checks and the sale of legal documents, TNT Gazettes, Acts of Trinidad and Tobago, and legal notices. The coordination of matters relating to Tobago through the delivery of central government services to Tobago in collaboration with the Tobago House of Assembly. And finally, statutory boards and other bodies as it relates to the THA nominees when the Tobago Regional Health Authority Board is appointed. Mr. Deputy Speaker, despite its original mandate, the Mischief Ministry, otherwise known as the Ministry of Tobago Development, was used as a political tool to duplicate and in many instances encroach on the work of the Tobago House of Assembly in what should have been a collaborative effort. For instance, over the past 5 years, under the People's Partnership Government, there were many instances of encroachment by the then Ministry of Tobago Development on the responsibilities of the Tobago House of Assembly. As a matter of fact, Mr. Deputy Speaker, I am aware the Chief Secretary wrote to the then Prime Minister, the current member for Siparia, identifying the areas of encroachment and duplication and requesting a central government take action. Mr. Deputy Speaker, as of today, I am not aware if that letter was even acknowledged. Nothing, absolutely nothing came of it. Some projects undertaken by the then Ministry of Tobago Development, let me call it the Mischief Ministry, which comes directly under the 5th schedule, include Functions provided by the Business Development Unit, which was established within the ministry, carrying out similar functions of a unit already existing in the Division of Finance in the Tobago House of Assembly. A community liaison unit established within the ministry, which was mandated to function as an outreach body to the population in an effort to assess individual needs. All the functions provided by this unit were direct duplication of the Community Development and Culture Division and Social Welfare, which falls under the Tobago House of Assembly. A non-governmental organization support unit, which was established within the ministry to support and encourage the sustainable development of NGOs in Tobago for their combined social, economic, environmental, and cultural benefits for the people of Tobago. Again, the work of this unit duplicated that of the Community Development Division as outlined under the 5th schedule of the Tobago House of Assembly Act. Other examples of duplication and excesses include the vertical farming project, dairy farm project, hydroponics setup project, all under the agricultural sector for which the Assembly has purview. Mr. Deputy Speaker, to add further insult to injury, the Ministry of Tobago Development established a special purpose company to further frustrate the Tobago House of Assembly and legitimize some of its dirty work. The Human Capital Development Facilitation Company Limited was used to legitimize areas the ministry wanted to violate under the 5th schedule of the THA Act. At present, the company is millions of dollars in debt and has entered into a number of lease agreements that defy rational thinking. Imagine on my first day of the job, they wanted to try and get me to sign up for some $12 million loan. I might be young, but I ain't dotish. Buildings owned by activists, leased by the company, and some entity called BEST are still trying to wrap my head around what is BEST. Buildings leased with taxpayers' dollars covering the expenses. In some cases, the buildings are constructed with taxpayers' dollars, even while rent is paid to the owners of the property. That is your legacy in Tobago. I can give you one example, Mr. Deputy Speaker. The ministry spent close to $1 million renovating a building owned by a brother of one of my opponents for the Tobago East seat. And the ministry is now renting the facility at a cost of $42,000 per month. That is your legacy. Accepted. That company, Mr. Deputy Speaker, and even the ministry was used to provide employment for friends and family of the TOP and forward agents of the People's Partnership Government in Tobago. As a matter of fact, Mr. Deputy Speaker, within weeks of the last THA elections, the losing candidates from the TOP received high-paying jobs, yes, high-paying jobs. Some of them getting in excess of $15,000 a month to sit and scratch the behind. They got those jobs without interviews. Even the political leader of the TOP, a member of the People's Partnership, spoke about the nepotism.
Honorable member for Tobago East, please find a different word, please.
Excuse me.
Also expunge it from the records. Thank you.
They got jobs without interviews. Even the political leader of the TOP, a member of the People's Partnership, spoke about the political nepotism and cronyism at the Ministry of Tobago Development and its special purpose company during the recently concluded election campaign. One small company recently established with 115 employees and in many instances, husband, wife, brother, sister, son, and daughter, all employed in the company. Workers at that company, 70 years old and 80 years old, calling down big salary, while many young professionals in Tobago crying out for an opportunity. And the members on the other side, they want to talk about nepotism and cronyism. Those on the other side, Mr. Deputy Speaker, trying to disrespect this government's attempt to create meaningful training opportunities for our nation's graduates. The member for Caroni Central spoke about graduate employment program being an attempt to build a partisan political cadre. Mr. Deputy Speaker, it's a matter of pot calling kettle black. That is exactly what they did at the Ministry of Tobago Development. In the lead up to the elections, they engaged a host of people on short-term contracts, the majority of them young people. And unfortunately, those they wanted to protect, their friends and activists, they gave 3-year contracts and placed them under the company. They protect their friends, but leave the young and vulnerable out to dry with short-term contracts. And when the 6 months come to end, they want to go and say, I fire them, check the letters, my signature not there. Unfortunately, Mr. Deputy Speaker, unfortunately, the situation exists. When I hear those on the other side talk about political victimization at what was the Ministry of Tobago Development, it irks me. If someone was engaged for a period of 6 months and that term of engagement comes to an end, how could it be firing? How could it be victimization? 6 months contract, 6 months end, then you have to move on. How could that be a political victimization? Mr. Deputy Speaker, some of those who are out there protesting because of their short-term contract coming to an end were receiving in salary in excess of $8,000 per month with only 3 subjects to their name. No. I know people in Tobago with degrees who are not calling on a job for $8,000. Some of them in the short term, 3 subjects, $8,000 per month. I want the public to note that. Yes. Many of them, Mr. Deputy Speaker, many of them were political appointees placed in jobs without interviews and with nothing much to do. I am sure, Mr. Deputy Speaker, the leader of the opposition did not have a clue of the wanton squandermania taking place under her watch at the mischief ministry they created to frustrate the Tobago House of Assembly. Some of the projects and programs that the Cabinet approved then, in operationalizing it, the then minister did his own thing. You all need to have better oversight of your ministry. Legacy. Mr. Deputy Speaker, this new government is committed to respecting the Tobago House of Assembly and will engage in continuous, meaningful consultation to the betterment of the people of Tobago, and will therefore work with the Tobago House of Assembly to right the wrongs that have taken place over the last 5 years. As a matter of fact, the collaboration has already started. There was a coordinated effort between the Office of the Prime Minister, Tobago Affairs Unit, and various divisions and agencies of the Tobago House of Assembly in the aftermath of what I would call a freak storm on Thursday. Affected residents were able to see quick relief through the collaborative approach that was undertaken. Mr. Deputy Speaker, the Office of the Prime Minister, Tobago Affairs Unit, will refocus its attention on collaborating with the Tobago House of Assembly to preserve, protect, and defend its autonomy while advancing the rights and dignity of Tobagonians and creating the best opportunities for Tobago. In this regard, Mr. Deputy Speaker, we are now guided by the President's schedule, and it has been reverted to CAST. In collaboration with the Tobago House of Assembly, the Central Administrative Services will be reviewing some of the key initiatives under the former Ministry of Tobago Development and the Human Capital Development Facilitation Company to ensure that maximum benefit is achieved by all the people of Tobago and in a fair, collaborative, and meaningful manner. Mr. Deputy Speaker, we believe in order to reduce poverty, social support services, education, and training, and continued financial assistance for some of the programs which were aligned to the Ministry of Tobago Development and the HDFCL company are imperative, but we also believe in value for money. Therefore, the Central Administrative Services is being restructured to prevent and avoid duplication and waste. Mr. Deputy Speaker, I am happy to note that the restructuring process will not affect some of the signature projects already underway. As such, the completion of the Meteorological Services Division building at Crown Point and the completion of the CAST East Administrative Complex will remain priority projects. Mr. Deputy Speaker, in closing, I wish to reflect on a point made by the member for Tabaquite. The member noted that opposition is an integral part of government. Yes, Mr. Deputy Speaker, this is indeed true. As such, all the members of this House have a duty to serve without fear or favor. You on the other side, you have a duty to support and acknowledge policy, especially when the wider public will benefit. We, the honourable members on the government bench, we have a responsibility to develop policy in the best interest of all and not a few. Let us not repeat the mistakes of those in the recent past. We all will be called to give account by man and God. Let us work in this honourable House to honour God and serve man, so that when our day of reckoning comes, we will all find favour. The member for Naparima said that God is not P&M, and that is true. But it is all God who sets up and takes down governments, and this time our God chose P&M. Mr. Deputy Speaker, I thank you for the opportunity afforded to me to address this House today. And I thank all of my colleagues for their support and attention. Thank you.
I recognize the Leader of Government Business.
Thank you very much, Mr. Deputy Speaker. Mr. Deputy Speaker, I beg to move that this House do now adjourn to Monday, the 12th day of October 2015 at 10 a.m.
Honourable members, the question that this House do now adjourn to Monday, the 12th of October 2015 at 10 a.m. All in favour? Aye. All those against? This House now stands adjourned to Monday, the 12th of October 2015 at 10 a.m.
This has been a presentation of the Parliament Channel on Parliament Radio 105.5 FM. Follow the Parliament of Trinidad and Tobago on Twitter. Our call sign is @TTParliament. You're viewing the Parliament Channel 11, also broadcasting on 105.5 FM.
A discussion on democracy.
Democracy stands for freedom of will, freedom of speech, free share.
Democracy is the ability of people to do a lot of things. Voting, for instance, the right to vote, people being able to have free choice as to who they want to govern them.
I would generally think it's freedom of choice.
A democratic country is supposed to be one where people could voice their opinions.
Freedom is what comes to mind when I think of democracy, and accountability comes to mind.
Democracy of the country is really when the people give the government ideas of what they want to run the country.
Basically, what democracy means is the opportunity for people as a whole to influence, if not determine, the policies by which they are governed.
It's an idea that we're still trying to implement. All over the world, the democracy, people very often set up democracy as a political system that is, for example, the opposite of what they think communism is, for example. It's not a specific political system. It's the idea of political power not belonging only to people in leadership positions.
People have a yearning to want to participate and to want to be seen as being important in the whole scheme of things, and to want to have certain rights and to defend those rights and to have the responsibilities that go with those rights. People want all that. So if you have a setup that denies people that right, then people might not go through the kind of